Dental hygienists are regulated by boards that are not made up of dental hygienists. Dental hygienists are lucky if they get a seat at the table. Nurses, for instance, have been self-regulated for over 100 years. Hygienists are regulated by boards that do not provide fair or equal representation. It is so hard for hygienists to go from one state to another state, and many times it could take you over a year to get your license. Hygienists are actually leaving the workforce because of the lack of license portability.
Are you a dentist who's striving to build a more thriving, profitable practice without feeling overwhelmed by the numbers? Hey, good news, there is a better way. The Academy of Dental CPA member firms know dentistry. In fact, it's all they do. Our members are experienced CPA firms who specialize exclusively in serving dentists across every stage of ownership. From startups to acquisitions, to optimizing associate income, to advanced tax strategy, practice growth, and transitions, we're here to support your financial success. When you work with an ADCPA member, you get more than a tax preparer. You get a strategic partner, someone who understands dental industry benchmarks, overhead management, collections, dental insurance, compensation models, and all the unique business challenges you face every single day. We bring clarity to the business side of dentistry. While you focus on clinical excellence, we ensure your financial foundation remains strong with advisory that turns data into confident decisions. Join over 11,000 dentists nationwide who have a financial expert in their corner. Visit adcpa.org to find a trusted dental CPA near you. That's adcpa.org, because your numbers should work as hard as you do.
This podcast is sponsored by Bank of America Practice Solutions. When you need financing for your dental practice, you really want to work with someone who fully understands your industry. For over 25 years, Bank of America Practice Solutions has helped dentists across the nation reach their goals through smart financial solutions and expert guidance. Whether you own a practice or are just getting started, Bank of America Practice Solutions can provide customized financial help for your short-term needs and long-term aspirations. Email dg.connect@bofa.com to find expert guidance, personal attention, and real solutions. That's dg.connect@bofa.com. And hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Art of Dental Finance and Management podcast with Art Wiederman, CPA. I'm your host, Art Wiederman. Welcome to the podcast. Please make sure that you follow us on all of our social media applications. I guess you call them an application. Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. Please subscribe to the podcast. That'll get you the podcast downloaded every twice a month when we do it. I also want to thank our wonderful sponsors, Bank of America Practice Solutions, Innerview, and the Academy of Dental CPAs, which is my home team. And this is the official podcast of the Academy of Dental CPAs. And today I am blessed and honored to have Lancette Van Gilder, who is the current president of the American Dental Hygienists Association, 230,000 hygienists strong. And I've gotten to know Lancette, and she is an incredible asset to the dental profession. She is a fellow podcaster. She has a podcast called Beyond Breathing, which has to do with sleep apnea, which is, as you know, having listened to my podcast for over 7 years, is very near and dear to my heart, as well as having been one of Dimension in Dentistry's 6 hygienists you need to know. Lancette Van Gilder, welcome to the Art of Dental Finance and Management.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I cannot wait for our chat today. And I think this is such a challenging time in dentistry, but I also think this is where our greatest opportunities lie. So I'm excited to be the voice of dental hygienists around the country and maybe shed some light on how we can improve the culture within the dental industry and help get people healthier at the same time.
Well, I will tell you, Lancette, I've met thousands of dentists in my career, but I've also met many, many hygienists practice, including the ones in the dental practice that I go to. And they are some of the most caring human beings I have ever met. And I have preached for years how important a hygiene department is in the dental office. And I've told my audience, Lancette, many times that it was a dentist and a dental hygienist who actually diagnosed my sleep apnea, which I'm convinced to this day probably saved my life. So I have the greatest respect for what you and your 230,000 friends do. By the way, I did not mention Lancette is a practicing hygienist, has been one for many years, and
Yeah.
works out of Reno, Nevada. So Lancette, let's start off. Tell us about your professional journey, maybe why you became a hygienist and how you got to be where you are today.
Yeah, well, I've been a hygienist for 30 years. I love being a hygienist. I still absolutely love being a hygienist. And thank you for saying such nice things about hygienists. I believe all those to be true for sure. But
I believe every
um,
word I said. Yes.
yeah, I wanted to be a hygienist ever since I was 6 years old. My first trip to the dental office was in an emergency. I remember going to the dental office and thinking everybody there was so nice, took such good care of me. I felt great about my smile when I left and decided that that's what I wanted to do. And still now, 30 some years later, I have never taken it for granted that dental hygienists have the power, I think, to change people's lives, to save their lives, like you
They do.
said, to help people smile and contribute to better quality of life. So I've had an amazing career too, but it all really started with my dental hygiene education. I attended the University of South Dakota for my dental hygiene schooling. And way back then, 35 years ago, I had a very unique, I guess, experience that as a dental hygiene student, I had a lot of autonomy. I had really was empowered to make my own clinical decisions. I provided care at Indian reservations, in prisons, and at the Mayo Clinic as part of an interprofessional care team. So as a dental hygienist, I worked alongside a physical therapist, a nurse, a pharmacist, and we treated people as like a whole entire person, not just a body part. So that was my education. And when I got out to practice and become a licensed hygienist, you can imagine I was quite shocked that the real world really wasn't like my education at all. And I got pretty frustrated within dentistry right off the bat that I felt like I could do so much more. I could help so many more people and work in so many different ways. But all of a sudden, within my first, couple jobs, couple states of practice, I felt that there was a lot of restriction, a lot of barriers. People could only get care if they were coming into a dental office. So right away, my first year of practice, I started getting involved in advocacy. I've been a registered lobbyist for almost 30 years, writing bills, lobbying bills to change scope of practice, to increase access to care, to really champion medical dental integration and whole person care. So this oral systemic movement that we're in now has really been at the heart of me for over 30 years. So I had a strong desire that I could always see that we could be doing better in dentistry. We could be changing systems. We could be helping more people. And I've lived my whole career practicing what I preach, so I'm still a practicing hygienist in private practice. I work alongside an amazing dentist at a complete health dental practice. I serve as a clinical director at Sierra Sleep, Airway, and Wellness Center in Reno, Nevada, which we focus on sleep disordered breathing. I work alongside of a dentist, but I really practice interprofessional care with other providers too. Myofunctional therapists. I work closely with ENTs and other healthcare providers. I have the podcast Beyond Breathing as a way to educate the public, educate medical providers, educate dental providers about how we can, again, just change systems and do better with outreach, education, and more interprofessional work between the dental industry and the medical industry. I'm a CE speaker, and I'm very proud to say that I own and operate my own independent dental hygiene practice in Nevada as well. I have a very small nonprofit and I'm able to provide free dental care across all of Nevada. So in addition to being president of ADHA, I, practice medical dental collaboration and oral systemic health and independent practice, as well as working alongside and building a great team inside of private practice. So there's lots of ways that we can help the public be happy in our careers, and drive change. And that's really my number one strength is how do we create a better future?
Well, other than that, you've got nothing going on in your life, right? Exactly. But I mean, it is amazing to me what I've learned over 41 years, Lancette, that, and I say this, dentists, hygienists, the whole dental team, we don't, I say we, I feel like I'm part of it. We don't fix teeth. We're about a better life, a better
Mhm.
health, a better relationship, a better
Yeah.
self-esteem. And people in your patients don't realize about the links between periodontal disease and liver disease and Alzheimer's and dementia and all these things that you know like the back of your hand. And God bless you and all of your 230,000 friends for teaching people about that sleep dentistry. I mean, my gosh.
Mhm.
So you have the ear of the hygiene community in the United States. I mean, you travel around, you lecture, you have your podcast, you're talking to thousands of people every year. What are the biggest challenges you're seeing that hygienists have today in 2026?
Yeah, I would say there's kind of, I guess, three or four really main consistent frustrations or themes,
Yeah,
that
let's
we're
jump
hearing
into those.
from hygienists right now is, number one, I think on the forefront of almost every single dental hygienist's mind right now is the lack of professional recognition from within dentistry. Surveys are telling us that, hygienists don't get professional benefits. They're not getting health insurance. They're not getting retirement. Some may be going 10, 11, 12 years without raises. Some are working
Yikes.
in areas where they have really poor workplace culture and bullying. We also, that state dental associations are now bringing forward legislation like what happened in my own state last year that you would no longer have to go to college at all to be a dental hygienist. Anybody off the street could be on the job trained by a dentist. All of this is making hygienists feel very, undervalued, unseen, and unheard. And that really is probably the number one thing we're hearing from hygienists, no matter where you live, how long you've been practicing, or what practice setting is there is this growing kind of lack of professional recognition.
Let's chat about the respect because I want to make this a big part of what we talk about today. Is the lack of respect that we're hearing about not only the hygienist but the entire team. I mean, a dental hygienist it's the cornerstone of your practice as far as I'm concerned. And, we always teach Lancette that leadership is key in a dental practice. It is, creating a culture where a patient walks in and there's hugs and there's smiles and
Yeah.
everybody when they're talking about the doctor, oh my God, if Dr. Wiederman says that you need this inlay or onlay or crown, I would go to the moon for Dr. Wiederman. But if the dentists create the culture that it's not good and they're not respected, I mean, they have to talk to their patients and just say, my hygienist is the best. The culture is the best. Talk about culture in a dental office and what you're hearing and what you think should change.
Well, and I can't speak for dentists because I'm not a dentist, but,
Right.
I'm sure they're feeling some of the same things. I think we're all so much more alike than we are different. Everyone wants to be seen and valued and heard, right? So when we talk about team culture, that is really up to everybody. I just did a podcast on how hygienists create their own brand, right? Well, you create your brand, you create culture by showing up, right? You show up and you be the best version of yourselves and you talk about solutions instead of problems, right? So
Right.
it is up to everybody on the team to build the culture. But, yes, if you are the dentist and you are the employer, everybody is looking to you to lead that, right? Set the expectations, have the hard conversations, have open communication, but, then hold your team accountable that if they want a good workplace culture, they have to do their part too, right? So I work in private practice alongside of a dentist who's an amazing leader. She checks in with us. She asks us how we're doing. If I
Yes.
need new instruments, she doesn't question it. She knows that if I'm saying I need new instruments, it's because I cannot do my job with the instruments that I have, right?
You're in the advanced class for sure.
Yes. So, it is up to employers. Check in with your team, ask them what they need, ask them how they're doing. But it is also up to us as employees to tell our employers what we need, to don't let things bubble up until you get so frustrated you're going to leave when you're not happy about something. Go and talk it through, problem solve. I have have a workplace in private practice where I have great equipment, great amount of time with my patients, great technology. I go to classes and I get to implement the things that I learn. Sometimes those things happen overnight and sometimes those things take time to plan out. But it is up to me as an employee to go to my employer and say, hey, I went to this class. I want to learn minimally invasive technologies. I want
Yep.
to add it to the production. I want to provide better care. I need some
Right.
more training, or I need these supplies, or I need this much time. I can't sit around and expect a dentist is going to come to me and say, hey, I want you to implement minimally invasive technologies.
That's not how it works. I mean, the
No,
fact
yeah,
that you're proactive and many of your 230,000 colleagues are proactive, the dentist needs to listen to that. And this is the message, doctors. Listen to what your hygienists are saying. They are with patients 50, 60 minutes. You're not with patients 50 or 60 minutes unless you're doing a long procedure.
yeah.
They're listening to what the patients want, what they need. They know what's going on. It's very, very important. Talk about, you had mentioned the licensing part also. And I've heard the same thing is that, in some places you basically, are you breathing? Yes, you're a hygienist. That doesn't work. I mean, the amount of skill and qualifications necessary to do your job, Lancette, are amazing. I have a friend of the family who right now is working on getting licensed in California, and I see what she's having to go through. And so, what are you able to do in your position to try and stem that tide to make sure that the licensing is appropriate and adequate for the job skill that a hygienist must have before they get to see a patient?
I mean, yeah, right now we do have a very high standard. We have that you must graduate from a CODA accredited program. So that means that every dental hygienist that graduates from these programs has the same education. That is critical. So, when I talked about the four issues, all the other issues fall into this question. So thank you
Right.
for wording it
Sure.
so beautifully. But,
Well, we
you know,
rehearsed this before we went on the air, right? Of course.
we didn't rehearse this,
No,
but
oh, well, it seems like we did.
but you're doing, yes, it seems like it because you're doing a great job leading
I've
up.
done this a couple times, as have you, so we're good. So
I can tell, but when we talk about the other issues that hygienists have, it's this recognition. But hygienists must. People think that it's only a 2-year degree, but it's not a 2-year degree. You have to have 2 to 3 years of prerequisites, and then you have to have 2 to 3 years of dental hygiene schooling, right? So
right.
by the end, hygienists have anywhere from 4 to 5.5 years of college to do this job. So the fact that you could just be trained on the job and skip those 5 years of college is what's falling into that, lack of professional recognition. But the other issues are, that hygienists have a lack of autonomy. We have a huge gap in scope of practice from state to state, and we don't have license portability. And these are three key things that me, as president of ADHA and ADHA, have been working on pretty diligently for the last couple years. And this is what we formulated our whole new strategic plan around is, lack of autonomy. Dental hygienists are regulated by boards that are not made up of dental hygienists. Dental hygienists are lucky if they get a seat at the table, right? So dental boards
You're
do
saying in every state, right?
yeah, there's only one state in the country that dental hygienists are regulated by a board of dental hygiene. Nurses, for instance, have been self-regulated for over 100 years. Nurses and hygienists have very similar education, very similar kind of career, workplace kind of, I guess, makeup. But nurses have been self-regulated by nurses for over 100 years. Only one state in the U.S. allows hygienists to regulate themselves. So hygienists are regulated by boards that do not provide fair or equal representation. So one thing that has to change is hygienists need to have equal say and fair representation over their practice, just like dentists do, just like nurses do, just like physical therapists do. And right now the system is not set up that way.
How do you go about? Do you have to do that state by state?
State by state, yeah, state by state, changing the laws, yeah.
So are there dentists on these boards? Are there accountants on these boards? I mean, what do we have on these boards?
They are heavily dentist dominate. I think most of the time we're talking 75% or plus are
Really?
dentists
I did not
with
know this.
maybe a hygienist or two and a public member.
Wow.
So many
Well,
states have been, like Nevada was looking at a super bill of how do we get rid of the dentist dominance, right? How do hygienists get fair and equal representation? That is changing the state laws. So we have to have a system that regulates hygienists to actually be accurate of the hygienist voice, right? Hygienists that know
I
what's going on with
agree.
the profession, that are involved in patient care, that are involved in systems change. So if we want hygienists to not leave, if we want hygienists to stay in the workforce, we have to regulate them more fairly, which kind of brings us to that scope of practice gap. The gap
Right.
is getting bigger instead of smaller. So some states are excelling at growing and elevating and promoting the dental hygienist. So they can own their own private practice. They can diagnose dental hygiene conditions. They can give Botox. They can practice in hospitals or provide home health, right? Some states are so restrictive, hygienists can't do any of those things and really can't even practice unless the dentist is physically in the building. And while some states are pushing the boundaries and able to drive some change, other states are digging in and saying, we're not going to change. So the gap is getting bigger. And if every hygienist gets the same education, graduates from an accredited program, why are they able to do something so differently in one state versus the other? We have got to close that gap. And then the last thing I think in that top four would be license portability. Hygienists,
Yes.
it is so hard for hygienists to go from one state to another state. And many times it could take you over a year to get your license. Many times you have to take classes over. Many times it's going to cost you thousands of dollars. And many times it's just not even a reality. So this license portability is really important in today's day and age because this is what hygienists want. And,
Right.
hygienists today are different than 50 years ago. Like you and I, when we got into our professions, we wanted to create a home, a stable home, and we probably wanted to stay in an environment the rest of our careers. But, fast forward 30,
People
40,
move.
people move. They want to maybe live in different states, different times of the year. Maybe they want to live by their parents part of the year so they can help them out and they want to work there. Or maybe they want to follow a family member or a friend or a partner as they're chasing their dreams.
Right.
Hygienists are actually leaving the workforce because of the lack of license portability. So when we look at the workforce issues, it's how do we get hygienists into the field, but how do we keep them in the field? By letting them have more autonomy, by letting them have more control over their work environments, by giving them more opportunities of where they can work and what they can actually provide at work, and allowing them to work in different states easily if you've met this high bar, right? This is how we address, a lot of the workforce issues that we're having. Give hygienists respect, ask them what they want and need, and then listen to them.
That's
Help
only
give
fair.
them fair and equal representation in their practice. Close the scope gap and make it easier for them to practice across state lines.
So, Lancette, are you putting together kind of a standard, like these are the requirements that you would like to see in every state?
Yes, we do have that. ADHA did create that over the last year. We have a whole new advocacy team at ADHA. We have a new advocacy portal and we have model legislation. Yes.
All you can do is to continue. I mean, at the end of the day, you're fighting for patients' well being. That's what you're fighting for. I mean, you're fighting for your hygienist well being, but you're fighting to help the patients, tens of hundreds of millions of people go to a dentist every year.
Well,
And
that and we're trying to get care to the other half of the population that doesn't go to the dentist.
yeah, that's a whole nother conversation, maybe for another day. But anyway, did you cover the challenges? Because I've got so much I want to talk to you
Yeah,
about.
I
Okay.
think I mean, yeah, those are the main things that I am hearing. I hear on a daily basis hygienists that reach out, that email, that call, that pull you aside at a conference. Those are pretty much the four main things that we are hearing from
Well, good information. So, Lancet, I've always taught my clients that a dental hygiene department supports the dentist by identifying potential problems in the patient's oral health, providing a great experience so the patient will refer their friends, and they're actually the ambassador of the practice, given that they spend most of the time with the patients. How do you feel about that statement?
Yeah, I have never called myself an ambassador, but when you say that, that makes me proud. Yes, I agree completely. We do know that hygienists have the most amount of time, and that's how we build relationships and trust. But we also are really focused on behavior change, right? Changing habits, getting to the root causes of disease. So when I have a hygiene patient in my chair for 50, 60, 70 minutes, patients. Yeah, I can tell them that they have a cavity. We can tell them that we're going to fix it, but it is a deep dive into why did you get this cavity? Why did you get this gum disease? And sometimes it takes an hour-long conversation to get to the risk identification, right? It might take me an hour-long conversation that it actually isn't sugar or it isn't lack of brushing, it's actually vaping, right? Or mouth breathing, or these conversations are in depth and they're long. And for patients to open up to you, that takes time. So, yes, hygienists spend the most amount of time. We build relationships, we build trust. But when we do that, we also present beautiful treatment plans. We can improve case acceptance. We can improve referrals to our practice. And I've always looked at my role as a hygienist not to take away from anything that the dentist does or diminish the dentist's role, but it's to strengthen the entire practice. And if each person is, empowered to be their best, practice their best, have their best equipment, be rewarded for their work, that's how we strengthen a practice and build profitability and get our patients healthier. And that's where we can bring in new ways of doing things too. No dental hygienist should be practicing the same way today that they did 5 years ago. Our conversation should be different. Our time management should be different. Our product recommendations should be different. So dental hygienists should be encouraged to go to classes and learn things like minimally invasive care, AI, new product presentations, and bring them back. Champion these things, these new systems in your practice.
I will tell you that the conversations that I've had, again, when I've been in the chair, I mean, the respect that I have for your fellow hygienists is incredible. I mean, they speak the same language as far as I'm concerned that the dentist does. I mean, are they licensed to be able to do what a dentist does? No, they're not. But they know everything about what needs to be done. And, I mean, they're in the front lines of doing all of this. Lancette, talk about the American Dental Hygiene, ADHA. I do numbers. I'm a CPA. Letters, I'm not so good at. But anyway, so talk about your organization. I went on your website and there are just so many incredible things. You have a program called Hygienist Inspired, improving access to care and increasing diversity in the profession. Maybe talk about some of the initiatives that the American Dental Hygienists Association are working on that dentists should know about. Because again, the dentists are not spending time at your meetings. They're not spending time on your
Right.
website. Maybe they should. It's www.adha.org. Did I get that right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Uh, I got some letters right. Good for me. Anyway, so talk about some of the initiatives, talk about this program, Hygienist Inspired, and other things that you guys are doing. And your website is fantastic, by the way. It's got
Well,
all kinds
thanks.
of great stuff.
Thank you. I mean, the last, I would say, couple years and the next couple years are really going to focus on everything that hygienists are telling us. This is where we have dedicated all of our time and resources to is what hygienists are telling us is important to them right now. And of course, this workforce crisis that we're kind of in is number one. And that's really where the Hygienist Inspired program came from. We're very, very fortunate that the Delta Dental Foundation, which is their philanthropic arm, has
Yep.
stepped up to the plate to help improve dental hygiene retention and recruitment, getting hygienists into the field, growing a more robust, diverse workforce, and keeping hygienists in the field. So we're very, very fortunate to have this relationship with them. But, with this comes along with how do we get dental hygienists to be better about talking about what we do with the public? A lot of hygienists are very comfortable talking about medical, dental, integration, oral systemic, what it takes to become a hygienist. But sometimes hygienists are kind of humble about that too. And we don't promote ourselves maybe the way we should be. So it's training hygienists on how to really tell people about the power of a hygienist, what we do, what's involved in the education, how rewarding the career is, and get hygienists to the field and help keep them satisfied and keep them in the field. So we're very excited about that. And it's taken off like wildfire across the country. And we do need more diversity, in lots of different roles from color to geography
Yeah.
to gender. We need a more diverse workforce. So Hygienist Inspired, I think we're going into year 3 of that. We have a lot of workforce initiatives that we're working on. We're helping states look at how they can open new dental hygiene programs, right? How do we get more dental hygiene students? How do we increase class sizes? In fact, last year we had more dental hygiene graduates enter the workforce than we've ever had before.
That's great news.
Yeah, we are working on this workforce, crisis in our own way. We have a ton of data that is telling us what ADHA's or what hygienists' pain points are. Everything from ergonomics, right, to changing state laws and things like that. So we dedicate a lot of our CE, our online webinars, and our in-person CEs to all of the things that the data is telling us. We have a great online CE platform called CE Smart. We have webinars. We have an amazing annual conference, one big meeting every year where you get the movers and shakers and leaders and the hygienists that are really embracing their role as a healthcare provider. This is the conference for them. This is not about status quo. This is not about doing things the way we've always done it. This is about empowering you as a leader. So you can learn more about business health. You can learn more about leadership. You can improve your clinical skills. So our annual conference is really multifaceted now. It isn't just clinical. It is you, developing you as a brand, you as a leader, and empowering you with all kinds of skills.
When is your annual conference each year?
Our next one is going to be the end of September. It's going to be in Texas, and it's in a different location every year. But now it's going to be towards the end of September, beginning of October, to launch National Dental Hygiene Month, which is the month of October.
Yeah. Now, you brought up, this is something we were going to cover at some time during our conversation is, after COVID, many hygienists left the profession. So where are we right now, 2026? Oh my gosh, 6 years after the pandemic. Can you believe
Yeah.
it's 6 years since that
Can't
thing
believe it.
started?
Yeah.
It's hard to believe. Where are we as far as, I know we lost my 8 to 10% of all the hygienists. You
Yeah.
know the numbers better than I do, but I hear they're coming back. Where are we right now? Because all I hear is I can't find team members. I can't find hygienists. I don't know how true. Tell us the story.
Well, yes, there was a real workforce disruption with COVID in every single industry out there. So dental hygiene was the exact same as every other industry out there, right? We lost restaurant workers, we lost anesthesiologists, we lost dental hygienists, and yes, it was about 8 to 10% of the workforce. But there was a lot of reasons behind that, and we were actually aware that this was coming before COVID came because of data. Again, ADHA leans very heavily on data, HPI
Right.
surveys, things that are done between the American Dental Association and American Dental Hygienists Association. And we were seeing red flags before the pandemic.
Oh, you were?
Yes, we saw red flags in the 2 years before the pandemic that hygienists were starting to take pauses, take breaks, start temping, retire early, go back to school because of the lack of flexibility within the profession. Hygienists, for instance, one thing we hear a lot is hygienists are primarily women. Women primarily have families, have children. They can't take their kids to school. They can't pick them up. They asked for more flexible schedules where, can I start an hour later so I can take my child to school and come to work? My partner or spouse can pick the child up from school so I can still work till 5. Or, can I take an hour or two off to go to my child's dance recital? Hygienists weren't getting these things, and so they were leaving the profession. We do know that there are a lot of things. There were hygienists that were scared of their health during the pandemic. We didn't know
Yes.
what we know today. Hygienists wanted N95 masks. They couldn't get them. They couldn't get them through their employer. Employers were asking them to reuse masks. These are the things we heard from hygienists, and they said no. Hygienists stood up and said, no, I'm not going to compromise my health. I'm not going to compromise my patient safety. Or it's time that I prioritize my family. Many hygienists actually had to homeschool their children during the pandemic because schools were closed, right? So moms had to actually leave the profession so they could stay home and homeschool their kids. Now, 74% of hygienists during this time left voluntarily. Some retired, but most were not retiring. Most were leaving because of all these other reasons. But what we know now post-pandemic is they are coming back. Hygienists love being hygienists. They are coming back. They feel safer, right? But they're still reporting high levels of concerns at work. In fact, there was a study that just came out recently that 56% of hygienists are experiencing regular workplace bullying from the front desk, from the assistant, from their patients. This is not a healthy work environment for some hygienists. And hygienists are saying, I'm not going to work there, where maybe in the past, hygienists would put up with sexual harassment. I know many hygienists who've been sexually harassed at work and stayed because there were no other jobs. Now there's other other jobs, hygienists that can find other jobs, and they can not tolerate poor behavior like maybe they did in the past. There are some practices that have a waiting list, that hygienists are on a waiting list for when an opening comes open, they want to be first on the list to work there. There
Right.
are offices that are known in the community, no hygienist wants to work there. So if you're having a hard time finding a hygienist, I would do a deep dive into, is it because there isn't hygienists? Because that could be true. Or is it because there's a workplace culture that doesn't make hygienists want to work there?
Doctors, I will speak directly to you now. So if you want to take a coffee break, Lancette, be my guest, but I'm going to talk to you right now. And I have preached this on this podcast for 7 years. If you have one, and a lot of times it's one bad apple in the office. It might be an assistant, it might be a front office, it might be a treatment coordinator who is just flat out not nice. And if you have that person that everybody is afraid of and that is talking badly, they are destroying your practice. So it is up to the doctor, up to the leader, up to the owner to step up, in my opinion, Lancette, and say, hey, this is not acceptable behavior in my practice. You must leave or you must change your behavior. So you said 56% of hygienists, that's over half. Now I'm in my element numbers, right? 56% of the hygienists are reporting that they're being bullied or harassed. And is that harassment, is some of that coming from the doctors?
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't know whether it's more from the staff or from the doctors.
It's doctors, it's staff, it's patients. I mean, let's just
Well,
touch on this that, patients and with social media and stuff, people have a lot more avenues to be bullies. They are getting a lot more brazen with their bullying. But yes, the reports are coming in. It is across the board. So, this is something that at ADHA, we are trying to invest in education and resources. We've offered a mental health certificate, communications, conflict resolution, skill building, leadership development. This is a new concern. This is a 2025 report. This is brand new. But these are the things that we should be talking when we're talking about the workforce crisis. Instead of like getting rid of all college education and on the job training, why don't we actually address what the data is telling us?
yep.
Hygienists want more flexible schedules. They want autonomy. They want, to go to work and feel good about the work that they do. And they want to be compensated for it. They want retirement. I mean, I cannot tell you how many hygienists do not have retirement except for through a spouse.
There are IRS rules about who qualifies for retirement, who doesn't. But yeah, I mean, definitely that is a big concern. I will tell you the word respect, I think, is the keynote of our conversation today. Lancette, I do charity work for the First Tee of Orange County, which is an amazing program that should be in every school in America. And we teach the kids about respect of yourself, respect of others, and respect of your surroundings. And doctors, again, I'm preaching here. I'm on my soapbox. You must respect the people that work for you. If you don't, they're going to leave your practice. They're going to go to a place where someone does respect. And it's not hard. It's not hard. What do you need, hygienists, to do your job better, to serve our patients better? What do you need? Okay. And how can we support you? I mean, I think that is the cornerstone of
Yeah.
your and my conversation today is doctors. And we have thousands of people that listen to this podcast. How can you better support your team, including your hygienist? I mean, you tell me, they're not allowed to diagnose, but they're allowed to point things out to the doctor. They are going to generate referrals for the practice. They are in there 50, 60, as you say, even 70 minutes with the patient, and they are going to help the practice grow. And if the doctor is not basically respecting his team and his hygienist, what motivation does that hygienist have to help the doctor grow the practice, right?
Well, and hygienists do have the ability to diagnose in several states, but not
Okay.
all. So
Right.
champion them and bring forward laws and support legislation that allow them to diagnose their part of the job, not the doctor's
Yes.
part of the job, our part of the job, right? I waited for 3 years for this dental hygiene position that I have now at a private practice. I've been there 10 years. I waited for 3 years for this position. This doctor is known in the community to encourage his hygienists to co-diagnose, encourage them to be autonomous clinical decision makers, encourage them to be members of the American Dental Hygienists Association, support support them as they're trying to change laws. Look at the person as a whole entire whole. Complete health dentistry is more than just cleaning and fixing teeth, right? It's
Right.
talking about salivary testing and using AI and chairside A1C testing and talking about sleep dentistry. That's complete health. I waited for 3 years for this job, and I've now been here 10 and will never leave. Probably will never go to another private practice again. So not all doctors are having a hard time finding hygienists.
This episode is brought to you by Bank of America Practice Solutions. If you are thinking about starting or growing your dental practice, we would love to help you take the next step. Email us at dg.connect@bofa.com, and we will send you a free business plan template that is perfect for starting the conversation about your future practice. Bank of America Practice Solutions has the expertise, the resources, and the support for your success. Don't wait. Email dg.connect@bofa.com today. Hey, it's Art Wiederman here. You know I don't recommend products lightly. I only share solutions that can genuinely impact your practice's clinical outcomes and bottom line. That's why I really want to tell you about Innerview. They've developed an FDA-cleared technology that measures internal tooth mobility, something that traditional methods just can't detect early enough. Here's what that means for your practice. You can identify cracks and loose restorations before they become emergencies. That means better treatment planning, fewer surprises for your patients, and more predictable case acceptance. Innerview integrates right into your existing workflow. No complicated processes, just clever diagnostic information when you need it. If you've been looking for a way to elevate your diagnostic capabilities and strengthen patient trust, book a demo at Innerview.ai. That's INNERVIEW.ai. Mention my name and you'll get $250 off. That's Innerview AI. INNERVIEW.ai. Well, only the ones that are making the problems for themselves. You talked about A1C testing. I mean, I learned about A1C when my doctor told me that my A1C was 7.6. And I said, what does that mean? I didn't know. This was 3 years ago. And he said, it means you're type 2 diabetic and you're on your way to problems. I said, nope. And I flipped the switch. Again, healthcare practitioners like hygienists are changing people's lives and saving people's lives.
Yep.
I mean, it's absolutely. So we talked a little bit about the interaction with the dental team. So, it's really the doctor that if the doctor is doing this, I mean, that's a legal liability issue. You're going to get sued and the labor board and the lawyers are going to take you down quickly because you don't harass employees. I learned, Lancette, in my CPA practice I ran for 33 years, when I had an employee who said, well, I'm questioning your overtime or I'm questioning this or I'm questioning that, here's what we would do. We would get in front of a phone. We would call either our labor attorney or the labor board and say, what is the law? And that's what we would do. And that doesn't happen in every dental office, does it?
It doesn't happen in dentistry in general, right? Dentistry is very siloed, very kind of self-protected. There oftentimes isn't an HR manager, or even when I've had to call the labor board on behalf of, hygienists in Nevada or whatever. Dentistry is very unique and very siloed, and there isn't a lot of conversations going on about what's happening in dentistry and violation of workers' rights and things like that. And traditionally, hygienists have stayed very silent about it.
Well, because they're afraid of losing their jobs or they're afraid of,
Yeah, and hygienists can only work in most states under the supervision of a dentist, and it's a very small community. So if you don't have other avenues to work, you tend to stay silent. And
Yep.
you're regulated by a board that's also primarily dentists.
So dentists, be nice to your hygienist.
Yeah. But
So
it
go
is a
ahead.
two-way street too. So, I'm not here to say that hygienists are doing everything right and dentists are doing everything wrong. I work in a culture where everybody shows up the best version of themselves, and that's really what we are asking for,
It is all
right?
success in this profession, both clinically, professionally, financially, and I'm the numbers guy, is really about caring, trust, and culture. Okay. So anyway, so Lancette, let's talk about some of the, new studies about systemic links between periodontal disease and everything. So I'm seeing a lot of offices that are a lot of doctors, when I ask them, are you really emphasizing this in your practice? And I'm hearing a lot of them are not. You're smiling.
Yeah.
So talk about how important the link between periodontal disease and pockets of over 4 and 5 and 6 millimeters, how important that is and how it's not being diagnosed these days.
This is such a big conversation, and I was smiling and laughing because I feel like it's the patients that are driving the change, not the industry. I mean, we know the stats in the industry, we know the science, but we have been educated and trained to practice a certain way, right? Which is procedure driven. We learn procedures, we master procedures, and we complete procedures. But the shift has to change to purpose driven healthcare. What is our purpose? Is health. So now that might mean I have
Total
a whole
health.
dental yeah, that might mean I have a whole dental hygiene appointment where I never clean somebody's teeth because the scraping of the teeth might be the least important thing I do that day. It's actually the education, it's the
Yep.
salivary testing, it's making the connections. I mean, I think there's over 14 cancers now that are linked to poor oral health, and it used to be just gum disease and heart disease, right? But now we know it's the microbiome, bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites. It's the cross-kingdom interactions. It's not just bacteria, it's all the organisms and how they work together and how they evolve and how it wreaks havoc on the immune system, so changes the
Yep.
immune system, and how these pathogens metastasize. They start in the mouth and then they metastasize to the mouth or to the breast or to the heart or to the joints, to skin. We're even seeing links now between poor oral health and skin cancer. So it's this, immune system versus also this metastasis, but it's even, the pathogens that cause tooth decay now being linked to things. So, what happens in the mouth doesn't stay in the mouth, it's going everywhere. And your patients are hearing about it
Right.
on the news. They're seeing it on social media. They're hearing about it in podcasts. We should be embarrassed that patients are learning about it from social media instead of from us, the
Right.
trusted, college educated, licensed healthcare providers. But it takes
Well,
time to learn how to have the conversation. You have to know the science, but you also have to have skills and how to deliver that message to your patients in a way that they understand. And I truly believe that is the hygienist's primary role. This is what we excel at, but we need
yeah.
time and energy and resources to be able to do that too.
And doctors, you're going to get your hygienists excited about their job if you get behind
Yeah.
them. And it's a liability issue. I mean, I've talked to lawyers in this space, and they just say to me, someone gets an affliction, someone dies. These lawyers know to go back and get the dental records, right? I mean, they know. So I want to talk about a couple of other things. Lancette, you and I could talk for days, I can tell.
Yes.
Talk about dental school training. You mentioned earlier about it's different. Are you happy with what's going on in the dental schools, the way the dental hygienists are being trained? And is there anything you'd like to see done differently?
That's a little bit of
Loaded question?
that's a loaded question. The reality is right now all dental hygiene schools are accredited by CODA, which is an entity of the American Dental Association, and there are a lot of things that hygienists want to add, like training to screen for sleep apnea. That is not in accreditation standards. However, the American Dental Hygienists Association has issued a policy statement that all dental hygienists should be screening every patient, regardless of
I
age,
agree.
right? But our
I are one.
education but so the association has a policy, but the accreditation model hasn't changed. And to change that is really hard. It takes years and years and years, and a lot of times we don't even get the changes that we want. Dental hygiene diagnosis, for instance, used to be in accreditation standards. It was taken out. We fought for that. We didn't want it taken out of accreditation standards. So are accreditation standards where we want them? No, but they are still a very, very good high bar, right? They are a very good high bar, but they don't evolve as fast or as complete and thorough as we would like. And ideally, again, dental hygienists want more involvement in what is in our dental hygiene education.
Right.
There's a lot of push right now within our association for advanced degrees. We have a lot of hygienists getting master's degrees. We want a doctorate degree in dental hygiene available. So we want the education structure and systems and curriculum to evolve and expand to mirror what is needed in healthcare.
So, talk a little bit about in this realm your group relationship with the ADA and the state dental societies like CDA and things like that. I'm assuming you're talking to these organizations on a regular basis. How's that going? Are you making any headway in trying to get some of these initiatives moved along? I mean, are you getting fought with? I mean, are there fights in it? Is it like West Side Story, fights in the streets? I mean, how's it going?
There's a lot of organizations out there. We want to partner and collaborate and talk with as many organizations out there as we possibly can. One thing that I implemented as president was creating a whole group. We held a meeting, our first meeting in Long Beach, California, where we, have the leading organizations from Dental Infection Control and Safety. We have ADEA, which is the American Dental Education Association. One champion that has been phenomenal has been the Academy of General Dentistry.
Yep.
They have stepped up to the plate in ways that we can't even explain about, clinical excellence and patient outcomes and team building. We're doing more and more work with them. The American Academy of Oral Medicine, again, the Delta Dental Foundation. There are groups, yes, that want to come to the table, want to brainstorm and want to collaborate. And there are other groups that do not. And we have made a decision that instead of trying to convince groups that don't want to collaborate with us, we are just going all in with the entities that do see a bigger picture.
So I will say that you mentioned AGD, and the reason you and I are on this podcast is because of our friend, Dr. Joseph Weinman, who is a dear, dear friend. And I will be speaking in June for a whole day at the AGD meeting.
I will
And
be there too speaking. Well, I should get to meet in person.
well, okay, my treat, glass of wine. I like Pinot. I don't know what you. Anyway, are we allowed to talk about alcohol on podcast? I don't know. But anyway, but the point is I will see you in Las Vegas. And AGD, I think they have about 40,000 members. Great organization. And Dr. Weinman is just one of the finest people I know. I had to give him a shout out on this podcast and stuff. So I want to touch on just a couple more things. You had mentioned hygienists in private practice on their own. I know that's I don't know, controversial, whatever it is. Talk about your thoughts on that and why you think it's important that they have that ability. How many states can a hygienist practice in on their own, have their own practice like you?
There's a wide variety of independent dental hygiene practice models out there. A few states, hygienists can have their own independent, brick and mortar practices without, just normal. Other states like mine, like Nevada, I can have mobile. I can have a mobile public health founded practice independent. So my independent mobile dental hygiene practice, I don't have a dentist. I don't have dentist oversight. I don't have a dentist supervising me. I refer to dentists and I am the employer. I am the leader of my practice and I employ dental assistants and dental hygienists. There's a wide variety of different levels in different states. But, to me, independent practice has never been controversial. It is about access to care. It's about innovation. It's about meeting unmet needs. It's about safety. It's about working together. It's not about competition at all. Like I say, my independent practice, I refer to dentists. I still need
Of course
dentists,
you do
right?
that. You're not a licensed dentist. You have to refer
No,
to
so
that.
we need them, but different
Yes.
practice models can coexist, and we don't need just one. We can have a lot. When dental hygienists can practice independently or autonomously, we can increase access to care. We can get more people care. We can make patients healthier, and we can make providers happier. Some
Well,
hygienists want to have their own business, and they should be allowed to do that, right? Most hygienists do not want to have an independent practice. They do not want
right.
to run a business. It's very hard. As a business owner, I can tell you, it's very hard.
33 years. I ran my own business. Yep.
But for, the 1%, 2%, 5% that want to do that, let them do that. That is a win-win for providers, the profession, and the public. So to me, it has never been controversial or about competition. This
Okay.
is about, there is not just one way to do things. There's lots of ways to do things.
Well, I think, unfortunately for you and all the hygienists, that is a battle that is going to be ongoing, and you're going to continue to fight the fight. Absolutely. Last thing I want to talk to you about, Lancette, is this. And by the way, you are an amazing ambassador of dental hygiene. Amazing. I mean,
Thank
just
you.
your passion in this conversation is amazing. So my question to you is, where do you see your profession? What do you see the changes coming in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you think you're going to see? I mean, maybe 2 or 3 initiatives. My first guest this year, I asked Dr. David Hornbrook, who's an amazing man, in 2005, what are you going to see in 10 years? He said, I don't think we're going to see impression material anymore. What do you see we're almost there, not quite, but we're getting
Yeah.
there. What do you see as changes in the dental hygiene profession, delivery of services coming down the pike in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I do see that dental hygienists will be embedded, or what we hope is that dental hygienists will be embedded in every setting where health happens. So, dental hygienists will be in primary care settings, public health, settings, wellness centers, as well as traditional dental offices. We could have dental hygienists embedded into every Amazon warehouse, right? We could have dental hygienists on wheels that have vans that can go to homeless shelters. I really envision that being a more mainstream, model delivery system. I see dental hygienists having what we call full practice authority. This is a lot where, nurses and PAs and physical therapists have, where dental hygienists can diagnose and treat and refer independently, whether they are in a private practice working alongside a dentist or whether they have their own practice, right? Full practice authority recognizes dental hygienist skill sets and allows them to practice at that full extent of the law. And internally, I see a culture shift happening with dental hygienists and how they view themselves. They are going to hopefully start to view themselves as more than just tooth cleaners and view themselves as healthcare providers who understand business, who understand leadership, who understand how to change laws and are stepping up to the plate and really going to reshape the future of healthcare.
Well, I will tell you that I have enjoyed this conversation. Wish we had another 2 hours. I have enjoyed this conversation so much. I mean, I know what dental hygienists do for the dental practice. I know what they do for patients. I hope that if there are any dental hygienists, I know there are some that listen to the podcast, if you are not involved in your profession, I say this to the dentists too, if you want to change your profession and what's going on, you need to get involved like Lancette has and like other wonderful people have. So, Lancette, tell me about your we'll put a bow on this. Tell me about your 2 podcasts. All
Okay.
right. And how they can be accessed.
Yes. So if you go to the American Dental Hygienists Association website, you will see a link there to the podcast. It's called Hygiene Rising. And there's lots of great conversations about what's happening, what we're hearing from hygienists, what the data is telling us. There's hygienists doing amazing, innovative, awesome things out there. So we can learn from other people. We don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? We can learn what's being done, celebrate each other's wins, and talk about the struggles that we're having. That's the ADHA podcast. My own personal podcast is called Beyond Breathing. You can find it pretty much everywhere, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. But I'm a dental hygienist who started a podcast talking about how dentists and hygienists and medical providers and patients can all work together for better breathing, better sleep, and better health. So yeah, I'd love for you to listen if you want to be on the podcast. I'm always looking for guests.
I'm always looking to talk. My friends know that I'm willing to talk. My children and my wife tell me I talk too much, but I'm old. I'm allowed to do that. So there you go. I'm not that old, but anyway. Lancette Van Gelder, you are a gift to dentistry. Thank you so much for all you are trying to do. At the end of the day, to help human beings. That's what this is all about. Dentists and hygienists go to school to help human beings and improve the quality of their lives. And that is what I've preached for years and years. One more time, ADHA's website, www.adha.org, right?
Yes, and I would say, every hygienist out there listening, or even every dentist, you can support your hygienist. You can encourage them to become a member. You can pay for their membership. Some dentists do pay for their hygienist membership, or just encourage them to be a member. But, membership is how we are growing and changing our profession. You don't have to write a bill or testify in front of the Senate. I love doing those things, but,
Have you
membership numbers.
testified in front of Congress?
Oh, yeah, several times.
Oh, my goodness.
But
That must
every
have been fun.
hygienist can help just by becoming a member, right?
Right.
You can do as much or as little as you want in the public eye, but those membership numbers count. And legislators ask you all the time when you're there asking to change a law, well, how many hygienists want this? How many are you speaking on behalf of? So if you want your voice heard and you want to be a part of the change, become a member. And then you can be as involved as little or as much as you want. I 100% am thankful for the members who just pay their dues every quarter. That allows us to do our work. But I'm also super thankful for the ones that are showing up at state houses, and fighting the fight verbally and in public and putting yourself out there. It takes all of us, and everybody can contribute in their own unique way, and we need it all.
Well, fantastic. Stay with me as I take out the podcast. And Lancette Van Gilder from Reno, Nevada, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation today. And I want to again remind everybody to please, please, please please like me. I need friends. I have no friends. Please like me on Instagram and Facebook and watch me on YouTube. I actually combed what little hair I have left today to be on here with Lancette. And again, I want to thank our wonderful, wonderful sponsors, Bank of America Practice Solutions, the Academy of Dental CPAs. This is the official podcast of the Academy of Dental CPAs. And I am going to get you in front of this group, Lancette. They need to hear you. And also Innerview, which is a great brand new technology that we think is going to be they think it's going to be a game changer. So there you go. Anyway, thank you for that. And with that, everyone, thank you for listening. Again, please subscribe to the podcast. And with that, we will see you next time. This is Art Wiederman for the Art of Dental Finance and Management podcast with Art Wiederman, CPA. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.